Have you ever wondered why the fear of infidelity, like an invisible poison, taints so many relationships? It lives in the silence, in an unchecked phone, in the pause before an answer that lasts just a bit too long. This fear, this quiet, soul-corroding suspicion, forces women to enter an endless race, to become better, more beautiful, more accommodating, more interesting. They believe that faithfulness is a prize that must be earned, won through suffering, secured in an exhausting competition with rivals both real and imagined. But the harder they try, the more fragile and precarious their world seems to become. Yet perhaps you've noticed there are other women nearby. They aren't always the most striking or the most compliant. They can be inconvenient, have difficult personalities, and possess their own, sometimes strange, passions. But there is something in their presence that makes a man look at them with a special, almost sacred awe. Next to a woman like that, the very thought of cheating seems not just wrong, but pointless, cheap, psychologically impossible. What is their secret? It is not magic or luck. It is a deep psychological structure that cannot be faked. Carl Jung, who dedicated his life to studying the darkest and brightest corners of the human soul, would have understood this instantly. He would have said that a man's faithfulness is not a trophy a woman wins. It is a natural consequence of her own inner wholeness. It is not something she demands from him. It is who she is. Men feel this subconsciously. They cannot articulate it in words, but they sense the difference with their entire being between a woman who is desperately afraid of loss and a woman whom it is unthinkable to lose. Between one who clings to the relationship and one who is the center of her own gravity. Today, we will not talk about how to control a man or how to set traps. We will talk about how to become a woman in whose world infidelity simply cannot exist as a phenomenon. We will break down 4 fundamental rules, but these are not rules of behavior that can be learned. They are principles of being that must be lived. They are the 4 pillars that support that unshakable aura, which men read as a sign of absolute, unquestionable value. Are you ready to stop being afraid and start being? Then listen closely. Rule 1. The rule of irreplaceability. The first rule is the most fundamental. It is this: you must become irreplaceable, but don't be hasty. This word has nothing to do with being a perfect homemaker, a goddess in bed, or a flawless beauty. All of those are functions, and any function can be replaced. There will always be someone who cooks better, looks younger, argues less, or earns more. Trying to be the best in some function is a war lost before it begins, because you will always be competing on someone else's field by someone else's rules. It is a path of perpetual anxiety and comparison. Irreplaceability is something else entirely. It's when you stop being a function and become an entire universe. Unique, inimitable, with its own laws, its own stars, and its own black holes. The woman who is not cheated on is not the best because she meets someone's expectations. She is the best because she is one of a kind. She cannot be compared because no coordinate system exists for her. She herself is the coordinate system. Jung called the path to such uniqueness individuation. It is the process of becoming oneself, of separating from collective norms, parental scripts, and imposed roles. A woman on this path builds her inner world with the same care that others build a career or choose wallpaper for the living room. Her mind is occupied not only with what to make for dinner, but with ideas from the books she reads. Her soul is filled not only with worries about the relationship, but with the music she listens to in solitude, impressions from exhibits she attends alone, a passion for a pursuit that brings no money, but brings meaning. She is in a constant dialogue not only with her partner, but with herself. Imagine a woman has a book, perhaps a very good, interesting, beautifully designed one. A man can read it, study it, and place it on the shelf. He knows its plot, its characters. He might even reread it from time to time. But sooner or later, he might want to read something else. Now imagine a woman as a library. An infinite library where new halls, new books, new sections are constantly appearing. Some of them are written in languages he does not yet understand. Some halls are dark and mysterious, and he hesitates to enter. Others are filled with light and full of discoveries. To spend a life with such a woman is to receive a lifetime membership to this library. The thought of going to another, smaller, predictable library seems simply foolish. A man subconsciously understands. To be unfaithful to a woman as a function is to find another function. But to be unfaithful to a woman as a universe is to lose access to an entire universe. It is an irreplaceable loss. The temptation of a fleeting affair pales before the fear of losing this unique world that enriches his own life as well. He doesn't just love her. He is intrigued by her. He never knows her completely because she herself does not know herself completely. She is in a constant process of becoming, and self-discovery. Jung would say that such a woman has integrated her inner masculine principle, the animus. She does not wait for a man to bring her meaning, structure, interest. Her animus already gives her this. She is her own adventurer, philosopher, and creator. She does not look to a man as the sole source of light. She herself is a source of light. A mature man, upon meeting such a woman, is not frightened by her light. He is drawn to it, to warm himself and perhaps to ignite his own fire more brightly. How? Do you get there? Start doing something just for yourself. Not to become more interesting for him, but to become more interesting to yourself. Read books he wouldn't understand. Watch movies he would find boring. Find a passion that is not connected to home, family, or the relationship. It could be learning a language, pottery, or volunteering. Something where you are just you, not someone's wife or girlfriend. In this space, you draw energy that you then bring into the relationship, rather than draining it from the relationship. Allow yourself to have secrets, not in the sense of lies, but in the sense of an inner space where no one has access. Your thoughts, your dreams, your meditations. This is your sacred garden, and you decide who to let in, and when you become irreplaceable, you stop being afraid, because you know, even if this relationship ends, your universe will not collapse. It will simply continue its motion. And this calm, unwavering confidence is the most powerful aphrodisiac imaginable. A man does not leave a place where he can touch a mystery, and you are that mystery. Rule 2, the rule of emotional sovereignty. The second rule follows directly from the first, but it concerns the most delicate and important sphere feelings. It states, you are the sole and rightful master of your emotional state. No one, not even the person closest to you, can be assigned responsibility for your happiness or your unhappiness. In most relationships, the same drama plays out, one rooted in childhood fairy tales. A woman subconsciously makes a man the source of her joy. He gave her flowers, she is happy. He forgot to call, she is unhappy. Her emotional state is like a boat without a rudder, tossed about on the waves of his mood and actions. At first, this might flatter a man. He feels like a powerful savior, but very soon it becomes an unbearable burden. He begins to feel responsible not just for his actions, but for her entire inner world. And this is a responsibility one wants to escape. Infidelity in such a context is often an unconscious, destructive attempt to find a space where he doesn't have to make anyone happy, where he can just be. A woman with emotional sovereignty lives differently. She, too, can be happy about flowers and upset by a lack of attention. She is a living person, but she understands her reaction is her own territory. Her happiness is a foundation she built herself. A man can decorate this house, but he did not build it. Her sorrow is her own experience, which she must live through and make sense of, not shift onto his shoulders in the form of accusations. She understands that her emotions are signals from her own soul, not a report card on his behavior. Anger tells her a boundary has been crossed. Sadness tells her of a loss or a need for rest. Joy tells her she is on the right path. She listens to her emotions rather than using them to manipulate him. Jung would explain this through the concept of the shadow and projections. When a woman does not own her emotions, she projects them onto her partner. She projects her need for care as a demand, her unconscious anger as passive aggression and resentment, her emptiness as an expectation that he must fill it. The man finds himself in the crossfire of these projections, and it exhausts him. He stops seeing the real woman and sees only a tangle of her needs and demands. A woman with emotional sovereignty has done the immense work of integrating her shadow. She has met her inner emptiness, her anger, her vulnerability. She is not afraid of these feelings. She knows how to handle them. If she is sad, she doesn't wait for him to cheer her up. She might say, "I'm feeling sad today. I want to be alone, listen." To music, talk to a friend. She does not make him guilty for her sadness. She simply states the fact and takes responsibility for her own state. What effect does this have on a man? It is liberating. Next to such a woman, he can breathe. He stops walking on the minefield of her moods. He knows that her good does not depend entirely on him, and her bad is not his fault. This creates an incredible level of trust and safety. The relationship ceases to be a job of emotional maintenance and becomes a partnership of two adults. Moreover, seeing her mature approach to feelings, he himself learns to better understand his own inner world. She becomes not a problem for him, but an example. Subconsciously, a man feels, this woman is stable. She is an anchor, not a storm. She can be trusted because she doesn't use her emotions as a weapon or a tool of manipulation. You don't want to run away from a woman like this. You want to return to her as to a quiet, safe harbor where you will be accepted, not blamed. How to develop emotional sovereignty. Practice the pause. Before reacting to his words or actions, take a breath and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why? What is my need behind this feeling? Stop using phrases like, you made me angry, or you upset me. Replace them with, I feel anger when ... quotes, or I get upset when. This shifts the focus from accusation to a statement of your own feeling. Find your own sources of joy that do not depend on him. These can be hobbies, sports, social life, creativity. Your life should be so full that his contribution is a pleasant bonus, not a vital resource. Emotional sovereignty is not coldness. On the contrary, it is the ability to love deeply and purely, not out of need, but out of abundance. When a man feels that he is loved, not because he fills a hole in someone else's soul, but because he has been chosen as an equal partner for a shared journey, this gives rise to the deepest kind of loyalty. A loyalty based on admiration. Rule 3. Rule of the sacred boundary. The third rule is the most difficult to understand and the most powerful in its effect. It is the rule of boundaries, but not the kind of boundaries built from bricks of ultimatums and shouting. This is about a sacred boundary drawn with an invisible line of self-respect. Many women are afraid of boundaries. This fear is deeper than just a fear of conflict. It is a primal fear of rejection, a fear of being left alone. And out of this fear, they wear what Jung called the persona, the mask of the good girl, the understanding wife, the all-forgiving girlfriend. This persona smiles when it hurts, agrees when it wants to refuse, and stays silent when it needs to speak. And in doing so, It sends a subconscious signal to the man. I can be disrespected. My feelings don't matter. My boundaries can be crossed. She pays for the illusion of peace with her life energy, with her dignity. The woman who is not cheated on has long since removed this persona and burned it. She acts not from fear, but from her true self. And this self knows that a boundary is not a wall that divides. It is the contour of her personality that tells the world where she begins and where she ends. It is not an act of aggression, but an act of self-love. A sacred boundary differs from an ordinary one in 3 ways. 1. It is stated calmly, without screaming, hysterics, or drama. The phrase, "You cannot speak to me that way," is said in a quiet but absolutely firm voice. There is no aggression in this voice, but there is steel. It is the energy of calm strength, not reactive weakness. 2. It is not up for discussion. She does not enter into long arguments, proving why she is displeased. She does not seek his approval or understanding of her boundary. She simply states the fact. This is unacceptable to me, period. Her right to comfort and respect is not negotiable. 3. Its violation is followed not by punishment, but by a natural consequence. And the main consequence is depriving the violator of her presence. Not in the form of a sulky silence, that's manipulation, but in a physical or emotional withdrawal. If he allows himself to be rude, she doesn't shout back. She silently gets up and leaves the room. If he is chronically late, she doesn't lecture him. She simply leaves after 15 minutes, because her time is sacred. She is not punishing him. She is protecting herself. Men, by their nature, are explorers. They always subconsciously test boundaries. And if there are no boundaries, they lose respect. This happens on an animal instinctual level. The absence of boundaries is read as weakness and low self-esteem. But when a man encounters a woman whose boundaries are calm, yet unbreakable, a shift occurs in his psyche. He understands that before him is not an object to be managed, but a subject to be reckoned with. He feels that her affection, her warmth, her energy are not a given, but a privilege that can be lost with one wrong step. And this breeds not fear, but the deepest respect. He begins to value her more because he feels that she values herself. Would say that such a woman is not afraid to encounter another person's shadow, his anger, his displeasure. She does not try to appease or avoid this shadow. She simply shows that on her territory, her laws apply. This makes her, in the man's eyes, not just a woman, but a queen, the ruler of her own world. And one does not cheat on queens. One serves them. How to establish such boundaries. Start small. Identify one thing in your relationship that you don't like but tolerate. It could be socks left on the floor or a dismissive tone. Think not of a punishment, but of a natural consequence. Not, if you leave your socks on the floor one more time, I won't speak to you for 3 days. That's manipulation. But darling, I will not be picking up your things. Anything not in the laundry basket will not get washed. Enforce the consequence. Calmly, methodically, without anger. This is difficult. Your old persona will scream that you are being a bitch and destroying the relationship. But by going through this discomfort, you will gain something far greater than peace. You will gain self-respect. And it is this self-respect that a man subconsciously reads as a command. Value me. I value myself. Rule 4. The rule of the absent void. And finally, the 4th rule. It crowns all the previous ones. This rule can be called the rule of the absent void. Its essence is that there is no gaping hole inside you that a man must fill. Most people enter relationships out of a deficit. They are lonely, they lack love, they need support, they are bored. They seek another person like a bandage for their wound. They are subconsciously saying, I am incomplete. Come and make me whole. A man, sensing this inner emptiness, receives a double message. On the one hand, he feels his importance and necessity. On the other, he feels himself being sucked into the black hole of another's needs, a hole that can never be filled. This neediness exhausts him. And infidelity is often a desperate attempt to break free, to breathe air where nothing is needed from you. The woman who lives by the fourth rule operates from a completely different paradigm. She enters a relationship not from a place of deficit, but from a place of abundance. Her life is already full. She provides herself with love through self-care. She gives herself interest through her passions. She is her own support through her inner strength. There is no void inside her. There is a full blooming garden. She is not looking for a man to water her withered flowers. She is looking for a fellow gardener with whom to exchange rare seeds. And when she meets a man, she does not say to him, "Come and save me from my loneliness," but rather, "Look at what a beautiful garden I have. I invite you to walk in it with me." This completely changes the dynamic. He is not a rescuer, but an honored guest. His presence is not a necessity for survival, but a luxury she chooses. Her love is not a desperate attempt to hold on, but a generous gift she shares. She doesn't cling to him, because her hand is already holding her own. Jung would describe this state as achieving the self, the ultimate goal of the individuation process. It is a state of psychological wholeness where all parts of the personality, the conscious and the unconscious, anima and animus, persona and shadow, are integrated into a single harmonious whole. Such a woman is not looking for her other half, because she is already whole. Jung would call this a sacred marriage within one's own soul. And only when this inner marriage is consecrated does a healthy and harmonious union with another person become possible. For a man, this is the most attractive scenario of all. To be not needed, but chosen. To be not a crutch, but a companion. This relieves him of enormous pressure and creates a sense of incredible freedom within the relationship. He doesn't have to fill her void, and therefore he can be himself. And it is this freedom, this acceptance, this absence of desperate need that he will value above all else. The thought of infidelity in such a context seems absurd. Why seek something fleeting and superficial on the side, when at home, a whole, self-sufficient, loving, and free universe, who has chosen you, awaits? This is the highest form of faithfulness, or not of fear, but of gratitude and admiration. How to arrive at this state? Fall in love with your solitude. Learn to spend time alone with yourself and enjoy it. Go to the movies, to cafes, travel by yourself. Make a date with yourself as important as a date with him. Become your own primary source of support. When you are feeling down, first learn to comfort yourself, and only then, if you wish, share with others. Practice gratitude for the life you already have, without any what-ifs. When you are happy alone, your happiness together becomes not a dependency, but a pure, unconditional joy. You become not a boat seeking a harbor, but a lighthouse. You don't chase after ships. You simply stand, shine your light, and the ships are drawn to your shore on their own. The four rules we have discussed: irreplaceability, emotional sovereignty, the sacred boundary, and the absent void, are not techniques or manipulations. They are milestones on the great journey to your self. This is not something you do for a man. It is something you do for your soul. The true reason for a man's faithfulness lies not in your control over him, but in your power over yourself. You do not guard him. You simply become so whole, so interesting, so deep and self-sufficient, that in your world, infidelity loses all meaning. It becomes uninteresting, unnecessary, psychologically impossible. The attraction to you becomes stronger than any fleeting temptation. Stop being afraid. Stop peeing. Start building your inner temple. Care for your soul with the same diligence. You might care for a relationship, and then you will discover that faithfulness is not something you demand. It is something that is brought to you voluntarily and joyfully as a gift, as a tribute to your wholeness, as a natural response to the light you radiate. And the greatest prize on this path will not be his faithfulness, but the meeting with yourself radiant, whole, and unshakable. If these thoughts resonated with your soul, share them. Let there be more women who do not fear, but live. Let the world be filled not with the fear of loss, but with the radiance of the self that has been found.